Ladies and gentle people. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention please again? Honestly, I promise you, I think it was yesterday, there was two babies sat at the front, and when I said hello, they were like snapped to attention, so I'm just saying, babies are the best audience. Very quickly, I'm going to mention this right at the end as well. Lots of questions coming up this week, lots of thoughts. One way you can dig a little deeper into this stuff is by joining the Essentials course, which is going to be happening on Friday nights from the 29th of April. Just a great opportunity to gather with a few other people. I think Liam's going to be there, so who wouldn't want to spend a Friday night with Liam? Already... Not helping. But to just think through these things in a little bit more depth, so do join that. And secondly, you've probably got lots more questions about God, about life, about the Bible. We've been thinking about the Bible today. This would be a great book to go and look into and dig deeper. It answers some of the big questions about Christianity. However, what I'm excited to do now is to introduce Scott again, who's going to introduce us to somebody else called Ed, who's going to share a bit about what the Bible means for them. Thank you.
It's on. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so most of the people on the other days, they've done questions and answers. And I just know Ed well enough to know it's not going to go anywhere because he'll just do what he wants, whatever I ask. And that makes me superfluous. So come up, Ed. Basically, I know Ed well. We spend a lot of time together, and we spend a lot of time chatting about God's Word and the fruit of God's Word in our lives. So I've just asked Ed, on the back of what I've said, to tell us about what the Bible, God's Word, means for him as a Christian in his daily life. So over to you.
Thank you. Me and Scott didn't coordinate intentionally in terms of what we're wearing. I think my shirt's a bit nicer than Scott's, but I won't tell you what you said about it when I came in. Well, I was a bit wrong. I was a bit wrong-footed when Scott asked me to tell my testimony, partly because if anyone knows me, they'll know that my memory is worse than poor. So I don't actually really remember specifically when I guess I became a Christian. It kind of is a bit of a blur to me, that kind of time of my life. But then he told me a little bit about what he was wanting me to focus on and the impact of the Bible on me. So then I kind of got a better idea of what sort of things I wanted to say to you. And I think I only really want to say two things, you'll be pleased to hear, about that. Because growing up, I was always a really sceptical person. I came from a Christian background, and my dad's a vicar. So I was always involved in the church and going to church on Sundays and hearing Bible stories. But generally speaking, I was, and I continue to be, quite a sceptical person. My wife gets quite frustrated with me because she loves all the videos on the internet, these funny things that happen, and I just say, it's not real. It's fake. You can see the wires, like you can tell that they're just making it up, and she gets really upset, and then we argue about that. But it's funny, I just spent 10 minutes telling her why it's not real. She still doesn't enjoy the fact that I've told her that. But for me, I set out in a kind of an exploration of Christianity, from a point of knowing the stories, but I wanted to know that they were true. I wanted to know that these things actually happened. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and investigate this as much as I can. And throughout time, I did that. And really, I sort of came to the conclusion that the Bible does stand up, sort of scientifically, historically. This culture is very good at dismissing it out of hand because it's just a religious book. Like, why would you accept that as history? But the more that I looked into it, the more I found that the way we measure history should be applied to the Bible as well. And the more I looked at that, the more true I noticed these things were. So I came to the end thinking, right, I've got this shining conclusion. The Bible is true. I'm a Christian believer. But actually, as much as I knew that it was true, and I knew the things that happened in the Bible were true things, it didn't really change me. It didn't change who I was. I was somebody who knew and believed the things in the Bible happened, but that didn't really make me a Christian, at least now when I look back at it, that's how I think about it. So it was the second thing that I want to say to you that really made a difference in my life, and that was I'd come to that point and sort of struggling with this idea that I still didn't feel like a Christian. I still didn't feel like God was a big part of my life and wanted to change me. Until I started to really look at the Bible less as a kind of scientific text, but actually look and read at the things that are written in the Bible. So it was that second part of my kind of journey with the Bible that really changed me. So I think that I'll explain that a bit more, because to me, if you look at the Bible and the things that God says about himself, about his people, and about what he's done and is going to do for us, that was when it really started to get to me. I think the world is so focused on wanting to know whether something's true or false that they don't look beyond the reality of that. And so the things that are said in the Bible, to me, were so deep and meaningful for us as Christians that it started to change me. It started to change my heart, and I think that was where I really started to, I guess the rubber hit the road, as Scott said. I wanted to build my life on the Bible, because God, in Genesis, is the creator of the universe, creator and sustainer of all things, and I think that's an incredible thing. But then to see what he does throughout the Bible, he promises to save his people and then sends Jesus to save us. That's when it really starts to bite home, because this is the God who created everything. You know, everything that has ever existed was created by him, and yet he cared about me so much to save me and love me in that way so much that I can trust in him. And I think it's from that point that I started to see God do things in my life that I understood that his care for me was greater than anything that I could do or any understanding of the Bible that I could come to. And so it was from there that the Bible started to really have an impact on my life. And I think that God working in me through that has just been really evident, particularly in the last sort of 5 to 10 years in my life. I've seen God change me, change people around me. I've seen God change people's hearts. And I genuinely believe that the greatest miracle that God does today is to change the heart of a person, because I don't know that anything else that can do that. So I think that's the main takeaway for me, is that the Bible contains those things that can change your heart because they contain God's character. And so that's where I take the Bible on in my life. And those challenges that come up in my life, it's that foundation. If Jesus is the rock of my faith, then that's the impact the Bible's had on my life. So that's what I would that's what I would say about that to you.
Thanks, Ed. It's just good to see these things grounded, isn't it? Because obviously I can tell you about a story that Jesus told, but it's really good to hear it grounded in someone's life where they've come to an understanding that these words are true, and they're not just true, but they're powerful to transform individuals so that they can live a life built on the solid rock of Christ. So thank you for sharing some of your story with us, Ed. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand back over to Rob.
I've got to weave my way through. Linda, can I... Sorry, no, it's my fault for not making sure there was a path.